Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Father, thank you for all the mercy and forgiveness and protection you have shown me when I've done wrong. Help me to do good and bless those who have done wrong to me. I am leaving them in your hands and believing that you are taking me to new levels. In Jesus' name, amen. Hello, Lori. I believe there may have been some sort of miscommunication. Perhaps I worded something incorrectly, I don't know. But at the same time, I believe that you were meant to interpret what I said however it was you did. That wasn't a mistake. Even misunderstandings can serve purposes. I think you referred to me as the Antichrist. Well, I don't think I am the Antichrist. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. Not trying to roll my eyes at you. No, if I were the Antichrist, I'd be a very lame Antichrist, if anything. I'm not an Antichrist, nor am I a demon, or a god, or a deity of any sort. I am very, very much human. I'm a man of the people. It's not always easy to try to have my mercy prevail over my wrath. Frequently, it can be far easier to let your wrath take over. Anger, vengeance, vindictive nature. That's the easy way. Turning the other cheek isn't always easy. And sometimes it can deal a great amount of pain to you before you see any sort of fruit bearing on that tree. I was woken up today while I was having a dream, Lori. I'm not quite sure what the earlier parts of the dream were, but at the part where I was woken up, I was donning my makeup. And I was putting this makeup on me when I was woken up at 2:22 of all times to be woken up. It's an interesting time. Everything's gonna be okay. And so I thought to myself, I've waited long enough to respond. I watch what it is you have to say, because I was interested. Who am I to dictate who God speaks to, or what sort of messages they are given? I feel it far better to be less critical of those people, to be less critical of you, and judgmental of you, based on appearances. Because I feel you have gotten probably a lot of that kind of criticism, and I don't think it's helpful. That's why in my first video, in the description, I made it a point for people not to harass you. That it was out of genuine concern. In my second video, there is a beautiful irony to your response to my second video. I made my second video because I was hoping that my initial response to you, my initial reaction to you, was incorrect. And that maybe I was just not being understanding enough. I didn't say Keikel Mashai to mock you. I thought that's what you were saying. It's hard to learn a new language, Lori. Is it Keikel Yeshai with a Y? I thought you were referring to me. If you knew my name, and you knew what it was you were talking about, the Archangel, Michael, it would be weird, wouldn't it? It would be odd if I was born in the year of the horse, for example. Or if my astrological sign was the Cancer. Cancer and the horse. But I'm not the pale horse. No. I am just a human. I am just a person, which I tried to make clear in the previous video, but I seem to have not done a very good job of explaining that, perhaps. You know, Lori, whether it was a mouse stuck on a trap, I've saved 3 in my life, while others were keen to just let it die a horrible, painful death, stuck, not understanding why it was dying. I tried to show these creatures, these animals, mercy, and free them. On one such occasion, I actually was bitten pretty bad for my troubles. But I don't fault the animal for biting me, for lashing out. There was an occasion where there was a small bird, a sparrow, I believe, on the ground, suffering in front of my workplace. There were people that came by expecting me to do something, expecting me to help it somehow, as if they themselves could not do whatever it was they were expecting of me. But I took it upon myself. I got gloves, and obviously I didn't know what was wrong with it. And I took as much care as I could with that animal to leave it somewhere safe until I was able to get off of work. I checked in on it periodically. By the time I got off of work, ants were trying to eat it. The vicious cycle of nature. I tried to help this bird. I brought it home. I didn't know what to do with it. I tried to give it water. It would choke. I tried to give it food. Things that birds might eat. And couldn't seem to stomach it. Ultimately, all I could do for this poor creature of God was to be kind. I pet that bird in its final hours. It seemed to enjoy that. You wouldn't think, right? It's so difficult to get close to things like that. But in its time of absolute need and desperation, instead of seeing the worst of humanity, people disregarding it, walking past it, allowing it to die in the streets, in the gutters, as if it was inconsequential, as if it meant nothing. I like to believe that that bird got to see the good of humanity. A person trying to help it, trying to save it, even if ultimately that wasn't what was meant to happen. It died despite me trying to help it. There was nothing I could do. I don't feel that there was anything I could do. The other day, as I was pondering what it was I would say to you in regard to your reaction to me, on my way home, I saw a black cat sitting on the sidewalk. It was laying there. It looked very scared. It wasn't far from where I lived, so I parked my car at the house. I rushed in. I got a bowl of food, and I rushed back. The cat was still there. I tried to approach it as calmly and as carefully and invitingly as possible, trying to offer it food, trying to help it. This cat was too scared, though. Perhaps the other humans mistreat it, and by extension it felt I would as well. And so it ran away. It ran away from help. It ran away from a hand reaching out. People can be like that too. I know. It must be very frustrating to feel like nobody wants to listen to you. And then when someone comes to you, genuine, comes to you, wanting to understand, wanting to learn, perhaps. Yeshua HaMashiach, right? I've been trying to learn what it is you have to say. Because the last time I thought you were speaking to me, I discovered that you weren't actually speaking to me. My apologies if it seemed disrespectful that I thought I was Keikel Yeshai. It wasn't meant to be a disrespect. And me trying to learn the way you speak and learn the things you say isn't meant as a disrespect either. Little boy. You know, a normal response would probably be to be upset, or angry, or lash out. People that know me and know the kindness that I try to show the world would probably be very upset. But I'm not gonna lash out at you, Lori. I don't want to. I have no desire to. Lashing out at you would only make me like them. Like the many who've lashed out at me for the things I've had to say, who try to criticize me. They know not what they do, and they know not what they say, nor the extent that what they say, the words they speak, carry. I know that very well. I was perhaps sad when I realized you weren't speaking to me before you made a response. I didn't understand. I thought maybe you would have understood. Maybe you wouldn't have reacted as so many others have to me and the things I have to say. You know, the thing about nature, people look at bees, and bees make honey. Do we consider honey to be a part of nature? Of course. It's a byproduct of the bee, right? I spoke to a woman a while ago. She was, some sort of pagan. I'm not quite sure. She believed in nature. She loved nature, appreciated nature. And so I asked her, what about this car? What about that street lamp? What about the buildings? Do you believe these to be parts of nature? She scoffed at the idea. How could these man-made things possibly be of nature? Well, what are we? What is humanity, if not a facet of nature? What is humanity if not the bees? And our byproducts, the honey. Why is it when we look at the animals and their byproducts, we are so willing to accept that that is part of nature? But when we look at humanity and what humanity has to create, all of a sudden it's odd to think of that as a facet of nature. We can make light bulbs, and we can figure out how to move electricity to make these lights illuminate. But did we create light? No. That's a very narcissistic way of looking at things. These things, these creations of mankind, are part of nature. And what is nature, if not part of a higher power? God, perhaps? And so, one has to wonder. Darkness, just like light, is part of nature. It's part of God. Who created the devil, Lori, if not God? Why is the devil allowed to exist if not through God's will? The good and the evil that humanity is capable of is not just a test, but a testament. It is there for us to learn, to understand that we ourselves, that it is our responsibility to go forth and try to spread goodness, to try to show mercy over wrath whenever possible. I reserve my wrath for the ones who truly deserve it, for the ones who would do me or my tribe, the ones I love and care for. They would try to do us harm. So no, I don't consider myself to be an antichrist. You know, when I said I was too much of a sinner for Islam, if you only knew what that meant, it's not as simple as sinning conventionally. I didn't agree with certain things in that religion. So, I'm sorry that you took away what you did from what I had to say. That wasn't my intention. But perhaps it was the intention of a higher power. For you to believe that, for you to think that way. You can only push people away for so long, Lori, before they stop trying. Is that what you want? Is that what any of us would want?
Dad. 5:07. I'm not making any more videos after this. Jehovah gave me a kiss. Because I honestly tried to wake the people. I did everything I could. I never stopped. But there's nothing more I can do. I just wish people would have listened to me. Sometimes I feel like it's my fault. Because they wouldn't listen. Because of who I am, they just don't think I gotta go.